Can a $100 million bet buy Kevin Costner revive Southern Utah's movie legacy? When Kevin Costner was mulling over where to film his Horizon franchise, he heard the southern Utah landscapes he glimpsed as a boy in theaters and gandered at during his travels as an adult calling to him. In the foreword he penned for Utah film historian James Dark's book, When Hollywood Came to Utah, the actor and director rhapsodized about the state and its long-time hold on him. A steady wind has been pushing me my whole life to this point. To Utah. To Horizon, Costner wrote. Where could I film this story that has been speaking so loudly to me for over 35 years that would do it justice? I simply thank God that scales came off my eyes, and in front of me stood Utah. Costner, like many other filmmakers before him, took a shine to Washington County, where much of the still unreleased second installment was filmed. Dark, who compiled 33 years of research into his book, said it's easy to see what drew Costner and other filmmakers to the St. George area over the decades. The scenery has always been there, said Dark. But the author says the area's rapid growth and accompanying upgrades to infrastructure and eateries put it on the cusp of filmmaking resurgence, one that officials hope will echo the days of Robert Redford, as a major movie studio rises up from the red dirt of St. George. Washington County checks so many boxes, said Joyce Kelly, film manager for the Greater Zion Convention and Tourism Office. The region's rich film history dates back to the 1920s. At the time, movie trade papers complained about the lack of variety in movie landscapes, bemoaning the fact that virtually all the westerns were being filmed at Lone Pine, California, or in the hills of the San Fernando Valley. Enter southern Utah's striking Red Rock Cliffs and nearby Zion National Park. Also helping the push, Dark said, were Gronway, Chauncey and Caleb Witt Perry, entrepreneurs who shot photos of its scenic beauty to draw movie crews away from Hollywood. One of the first motion pictures shot in Washington County was Ramona, a silent movie about a historic romance between a Spanish woman and a mestizo Indian that was largely filmed in Zion. For the 1927 film, crews constructed elaborate sets in the park, a lavish estate at the Temple of Sinawava, and a cabin on the West Rim Trail. The cabin was intentionally burned down as part of the plot, an action that earned the park's superintendent, Ivan T. Skoyan, a verbal reprimand from National Park Service Director Stephen Mather, according to Dark. A slew of Hollywood films followed, including In Old Arizona, widely recognized as the first talkie western. The movie earned Warner Baxter an Academy Award for his portrayal of the Cisco Kid and was largely shot in the ghost town of Grafton near Zion. After a sound truck broke down during the shoot near Grafton, the crew headed back to Los Angeles to film the remaining scenes. Director Raoul Walsh was sitting beside the driver in the front seat of the car as they rushed to the airport in the dark to catch a flight. We missed outcrops and cattle and once scattered a herd of deer, Dark quotes Walsh saying in his book. The only thing we did not miss was a big jackrabbit. Startled by the car's headlights, the rabbit jumped through the passenger side window, sending glass splinters into Walsh's face and causing blood to flow from his right eye. The badly damaged eye was removed at Holy Cross Hospital in Salt Lake City, Dark wrote, and Walsh sported a fashionable eye patch for the rest of his life, courtesy of a Utah jackrabbit. Despite its scenic locales, Washington County played a supporting role in Utah's early film history. The reason, Dark says, was Kanab, where the Perry brothers had built a lodge to host film crews in the town that came to be known as Little Hollywood. Dark said many St. George locals drove to Kanab to work on the films, effectively reinforcing the Kane County town's dominance. Meanwhile, St. George city leaders showed little interest in drumming up much movie business. When 8 movie scouts from RKO Radio Pictures turned up in St. George in the early 1950s to look for locations to film a religious extravaganza, they were greeted with little fanfare. That movie turned out to be The Conqueror, a widely panned historical drama about Genghis Khan starring John Wayne and Susan Hayward that debuted in 1956. While the movie was a flop with critics, it marked a shift for the region's filmmaking. When the 220-member cast and crew arrived, the town sprang into action, according to Dark. Local school buses ferried crews, motels were filled to the brim, and Dixie High School was repurposed for dressing the cast and costume storage. All told, about 700 of St. George's 4,300 residents were hired as extras, stand-ins, or other jobs for the film, and roughly 300 members of the nearby Shivwits Band of Paiutes Reservation were cast as Mongols and warriors, according to Dark. Overwhelmed by the support, Wayne gushed about St. George. This is the way we like to think of America. People cheerfully helping people simply because that's a good way to live, Wayne said, according to Dark. By the time the last film crew left St. George, Dark writes, it was estimated RKO had poured $750,000 into the St. George economy, a total which translates to more than $9 million in 2026 dollars. The film would later gain a grim reputation. Dark noted that some subsequently dubbed the film an RKO radioactive picture due to the high cancer rates among the production team. John Wayne, Susan Hayward, and 43 other cast members died from cancer, which many suspect was caused by radioactive fallout from atomic testing that took place at Yucca Flats, Nevada, only 145 miles from St. George. Hollywood movie making in Utah slowed considerably in the 1960s. Dark needs just 2 words to sum up its resurgence in the late 60s through the 1970s. Robert Redford. Dark said the actor, who died in September at 89, had driven through the St. George area since the mid-1950s, was impressed with its movie-making potential, and subsequently sold 20th Century Fox on southern Utah. They were initially going to film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in New Mexico, Redford relates in Dark's book. I got them to come and look at St. George, and, of course, much of it was filmed there. After daily filmings wrapped up at places like Grafton, Snow Canyon, and Zion, Paul Newman, Redford, and other cast members retired to Dick's Cafe for dinner. Paul Newman would make the salad for everyone, Dark writes. Even then, before Newman's own, he would have the ingredients brought to him and make the salad dressing. Redford returned to film 1972's Jeremiah Johnson. This critically acclaimed movie, which the actor persuaded